selection and navigation is the very first topic we learn in Excel, however, efficient techniques for selection and navigation can go far beyond the basics. I am Nabil Murad. In this tutorial, I cover different methods for selecting and navigating cells, ranges, columns, rows, sheets. Mastering these techniques can save you a lot of time when working in Excel. So let's dive in. The basic technique we learn is to select by using a mouse. So to select a cell, I click on that cell. I can click on another cell. I can select adjacent cells by using the arrows on my keyboard. I can select the cell up, I can select a cell down, to the right and to the left. This technique is very useful when selecting input values for formulas and functions. I can also select non-adjacent cells by pressing the Control key on my keyboard. Press Control and click and you will be selecting multiple non-adjacent cells. I can also select a range, a group of cells, by dragging. So when I hover with my mouse over the center of the cell and you see the mouse pointer appearing at a thick plus sign, you can click and drag to select a range. I can also select multiple ranges by pressing the Control key and drag. I can select an entire column in Excel by hovering over the column letter. When the mouse pointer changes to a black down pointing arrow, I click and I would have selected a column. You can also select multiple columns by hovering over the column letter and then click and drag over the column letters. I can select a single row by hovering over the row number. When the mouse pointer changes to a black right pointing arrow, I click and I would have selected a row. I can select multiple rows by dragging over the row numbers. You can select multiple non-adjacent columns by pressing the Control key and you would have selected multiple non-adjacent columns. Similarly, I can select multiple non-adjacent rows. So I select row number 3 by clicking, and then I press Control and click and drag on rows number 5 and 6, and then press Control and click on row number 9, and I would have selected multiple non-adjacent rows. I can also select a column and a row. So I can click on column C to select the entire column, and then I press Control and click on row number 5, and I would have selected column C and row number 5 simultaneously. A very important shortcut for selection and navigation is Control Home, which takes me to cell A1. Control Home takes me to cell A1 from wherever you are in your worksheet. I go to the next worksheet name box, and here I'll be selecting by using the name box. By the way, the name box is to the left side of the formula bar, and there are ellipses separating them. When you hover over the ellipses and you see the mouse pointer changing to a horizontal line and two opposing arrows, you can resize whether the formula bar or the name box at the expense of each other. So if I drag to the right, I'm increasing the size of the name box. If I drag to the left, I'm reducing the size of the name box. You can activate the name box either by clicking, or you can jump to the name box at any time by using the shortcut Alt F3. And now I'll be talking about selection by using the name box. To select a cell, just type the cell reference in the name box. I want to select cell C4, then I type C4, and when I hit enter, I would have selected this cell. You can select multiple non-adjacent cells through the name box. So I want to activate the name box, Alt F3, and then I type A2, and then I type comma to select another cell reference, and then I type B5, and then I type comma, I type C8, and when I hit enter, I would have selected the 3 cells. I can also use the name box to select a range. So I activate the name box either by clicking or by pressing the shortcut Alt F3, and I'm going to type the range B2C5. B2:C5. and when I hit enter, I would have selected this range. I can also select a range starting from a selected cell. So if I have cell C4 selected, I can select a range where C4 is the upper left corner of this range. And I do that by hitting Alt F3 to go to the name box, and I type E7, the opposite corner for the range. So when I type E7, and then I hit Shift Enter, in this case, I would have selected an entire range starting from a single cell. I can also select multiple non-adjacent ranges by using the name box. I activate the name box by hitting Alt F3, and then I type the first range A1 colon C5, and then I type a comma, and then type the second range B8 colon F10. Now to select both ranges, I just hit enter. Note, one of the column letters was in lowercase, and that doesn't make a difference. I can also select a range by dragging, let's say A1C5, and I want to select another range without losing this range. And to do that, I go to the name box Alt F3, and in the name box I type the second range that I want to select, B8 colon F10, and to keep my current selection and just add this new selection, I hit Ctrl Enter, and I would have selected multiple non-adjacent ranges by using the name box. I can also select any column from the name box. I hit Alt F3. I can also click in the name box if I want, and I want to select column B, then I type B colon B. And when I hit enter, I would have selected the entire column. Similarly, I can select an entire row, then I hit Alt F3, and I want to select row number 3. I type 3 colon 3, and I hit enter, and I would have selected an entire row. To select many columns, I go to the name box, and I want to select columns B, C, D, E, and columns L, M. In the name box, I type B colon E, and then I type a comma, and I type L colon M, and now I hit enter, and I would have selected multiple non-adjacent columns using the name box. I can do the same for rows, so I go to the name box Alt F3, and I type 3 colon 7, and then comma. I also want to select rows 9 to 11, and I type 9 colon 11, and when I hit enter, I would have selected multiple non-adjacent rows. Should you wish to select a row and a column, then I go to the name box Alt F3, I type the columns B colon C, I then type a comma, and I type the row number 6 colon 7, and I hit enter to select 2 columns and 2 rows. If you just want the intersection of these columns and rows, you can do that by typing the same column letters and the same row numbers, but instead of a comma, we'll be typing a space. Let's do that. Alt F3 to go to the name box. I type B colon C, and then I type a space, and then I type row number 6 colon 7. When I hit enter, this time I'm just selecting the intersection of the columns and the rows. You can also select a column from a cell using the name box. Alt F3. I want to go to cell C4. I type C4 and then I hit enter, and C4 is selected. Using this cell, I'm going to select the entire column by hitting Ctrl spacebar, and I would have selected the entire column. I can also select the entire column corresponding to the selected cell. So let's say I go to cell E5, I go to the name box Alt F3, and then I type E5, enter, and then I go one more time to the name box Alt F3. I want to select the entire column. I type letter C for column, and then I hit enter. I would have selected the entire column. I can also select an entire row starting from a cell using the name box. So let's go and select cell C5, Alt F3, I type C5 and then I hit enter. I'm selecting cell C5. Now if I want to select the entire row, I hit Shift spacebar and I would have selected an entire row. Now I want to select cell C5 one more time, Alt F3, I type C5 and then I hit enter. I want to select the entire row by using the name box. Another way of doing this, row starts with letter R, so if I hit Alt F3 to activate the name box and I type letter R followed by hitting enter, I would have selected the entire row. Let's go back one more time and select a single cell. I'm going to click on cell, let's say C5. I want to select the entire column, Control spacebar. How in the world can I shrink my selection to cell C5, which is different in color? We call it the active cell. I can do that by using an extremely useful shortcut, which is Shift Backspace. Let's do it in a different way by using the name box. I want to select the entire column, Control spacebar. Then I go to the name box, Alt F3. I want to shrink my selection to the active cell. I type RC, row, column, and then I hit enter, and I would have shrunk my selection to cell C5. Now let's talk a little bit about navigation. I go to the navigation worksheet. I have some data in this worksheet, and I can navigate to a specific cell as we learned by typing the cell reference. But what if you want to navigate to a distant cell? Let's say I want to go to the last column in the worksheet or to the last row. Let's jump to cell A70. I go to the name box Alt F3. I type A70. And there I hit enter and I would be in cell A70, column A, row number 70. To go to the last column, column XFD, while remaining in the same row, I hit Control and right arrow, Control, right arrow, and now I'm in column XFD. This is column number 16,384. I want to jump to cell A1, Control Home, the shortcut, and the control and arrow will take you to the last column, assuming that you have no values, no text, no numbers. These text or number behave like a bus stop. Now I'm in row number 1. If I hit control right arrow, I will stop at cell O1 because I have text. If I hit control right arrow one more time, I stop in cell S1 because I have numbers. But if I hit control right arrow one more time, and because I don't have anything in row number 1 to the right side of column S, then it will take me to the last column. Control right arrow takes me to the last column XFD. Similarly, control down arrow will take me to the last row, 1,048,576. Control left arrow will take me to column A, and control up arrow will take me to the top. If I don't have any text or numbers, now I'm stopping at cell A17 because I do have some text. To jump to cell A1, I hit Control Home. I can navigate in a list or table, and I do have a list. So I'm selecting any cell in this list. I want to go to the bottom of this list. Look at this beautiful technique. If you hover over any one of the 4 borders, the mouse pointer changes to a 4-headed arrow. When I double click, it takes me to the very bottom. If I hover over the top border, and when I see the mouse pointer changing to a 4-headed arrow, if I double click, it takes me to the top cell. And if I select the same cell and I want to navigate to the right, I double click on the right border and it takes me to the right. And if I double click on the left border, it takes me to the left. Double clicking on the border when you see the 4-headed arrow is one of the useful techniques of navigation. I can also navigate up and down by using the wheel of the mouse. Using the wheel of the mouse is the equivalent of using the vertical scroll bar. But how in the world can I change the direction of navigation by using the wheel of the mouse? I can do that by pressing Ctrl and Shift simultaneously on the keyboard. Now if I use the wheel of the mouse, I would have changed the direction of navigation. The final technique of navigation is by converting your mouse into a joystick. And you do that by pushing down the wheel of the mouse instead of scrolling by using the wheel. If you push down the wheel, the mouse pointer changes to a four-headed arrow. If you move a little bit to the right, there is a black arrow that detaches from the four-headed arrows. The distance between the black arrow and the four-headed arrows is like the accelerator of your car. The greater the distance, the higher the speed of navigation. So I can navigate right, I can navigate down, I can navigate left, I can increase the speed, I can reduce the speed, and when I release my mouse, it turns back to a regular mouse pointer. Let's move to the next worksheet, List and Table, and I want to talk about selection and navigation in a list or table. We know that when we make a selection inside a table Design tab pops up into the ribbon, but if you click outside, it's gone. While when you click inside the list, nothing is added to the ribbon. There are so many differences between list and table. I have a full tutorial about the secrets of lists and tables. I encourage you to watch this tutorial at your convenience. The link is in the description below the video. To select a list, I start by selecting any single cell, and then I hit the shortcut Ctrl A. It selects the entire list, including the column headers. However, if I select a single cell in a table and I hit the same shortcut Ctrl A, it selects the table without the column headers. And if you want to select the column headers, then you have to hit Ctrl A second time because it works incrementally. This is Ctrl A second time. You can also select the entire list or table with another shortcut, which is Ctrl *, the star on the numeric keypad. So if I hit Ctrl*, I would have selected the entire list. The same applies to the table. I'm selecting any single cell. I hit Ctrl*, and I would have selected the entire table. If you are selecting a single cell in a table and you want to select the entire column, you can use the shortcuts we used before, Ctrl spacebar to select the entire column. I can shrink my selection, Shift backspace. To select an entire row, starting from a single cell, I hit Shift spacebar. A very useful shortcut, especially when you have a huge table, is a shortcut that allows you to rotate through the four corners of a list or a table. I'm selecting any cell in this list, and I'm going to select the entire list, Ctrl*, Ctrl**, and now I'm going to rotate the active cell. The active cell is the cell different in color, and I rotate it, which is a way of navigation, by using the shortcut Ctrl period. Control period, Control period, Control period, Control period. So if I combine it with the other shortcut for shrinking, then I'm going to move from the upper left corner where I am right now to the opposite corner, the lower right corner. So I hit Control period twice, and now I want to shrink my selection, Shift backspace. I can also make a selection and navigation to the ribbon. So we know that when we click on the ribbon, we activate a tab and we bring it to the surface. But a quick way of moving through the different tabs of the ribbon is to use the wheel of the mouse. So if you use the wheel of the mouse, you are navigating quickly from one tab to the other. You can also collapse the ribbon to make more room to the work area. And most of us know that we can collapse the ribbon by double-clicking on any one of the tabs. When you double-click, it collapses. When you double-click, it expands. However, there is a universal shortcut that works in all Microsoft Office applications, which is Ctrl F1 to collapse, Ctrl F1 to expand. It's a toggle shortcut. When I hit Ctrl F1 to collapse, it leaves the tab names and the quick access toolbar. So if I expand Ctrl F1, should you wish to have Excel fill the entire screen, the entire window, then I add Shift to the previous shortcut. Then if I hit Ctrl Shift F1, then Excel is in full screen mode. I hit Ctrl Shift F1, then I bring back the ribbon. You can also navigate the sheet tabs. So if you click on one of the sheet tabs, you are selecting and activating the entire worksheet. But there are so many worksheets hidden behind the horizontal scroll bar. I can reveal them by clicking on the little right pointing arrow in the navigation area. So if I click on the right pointing arrow, I'm revealing sheets from the right side. If I click on the left pointing arrow, I'm revealing sheets from the left side. You can also reveal sheets from the right and left by clicking on the ellipses, whether on the right or on the left. So if I click on the ellipses, not only it reveals the sheet, but it selects it. So I click on the ellipses on the right, then I'm revealing and selecting simultaneously. I do the same from the left ellipses. I can jump to the last worksheet by pressing Ctrl and click on the right arrow, or jump to the first worksheet, Ctrl and left arrow. If you have a huge number of sheets, then these techniques are not really efficient. The technique that works better is to right-click over the navigation button. Excel automatically opens a pane, and this pane displays a list of all the sheet tabs available in this workbook. Double-clicking on any one of the names will take you right there. So I can right-click and then I can double-click on the first worksheet, so I will be jumping to the first worksheet. You can also move from one sheet to the other sheet by using a shortcut, and that's my preferred technique. To move to the right, I hit Control Page Down. To move to the left, I hit Control Page Up. Control Page Down to move to the right, Control Page Up to move to the left. Note that the sheet tabs might be totally hidden by expanding the horizontal scroll bar. So if I hover over the ellipses, separating the sheet tabs from the horizontal scroll bar, when the mouse pointer changes to a horizontal line and two opposing arrows, I can click and drag and I'll be hiding all the sheet tabs. I can hover one more time and I drag to the right. I'm resizing the horizontal scroll bar. We learned in this tutorial some of the important techniques for selection and navigation. These techniques can save you a lot of time when working in Excel. If you enjoyed this training video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel to be notified when new tutorials are released. The best is yet to come. Thanks for watching and see you next time.